Okay, so here we have the oxtail. Now, at this point, I'm just showing you because I already have the oxtail that I'm going to be using at the house. These can be a little pricey. Um, so keep in mind that you want to use enough oxtail just because the bone in the middle does take a lot of weight. We're going to need some butter beans and we're going to need some carrots. Now, I chose baby carrots because it's easier. I'm also going to be getting a pressure cooker since this requires a lot of cooking time. We're gonna shorten it up a little bit with the pressure cooker. So, like I said, I already had the oxtail. There's a lot of other ingredients that go into this, but I already have them. And we're gonna see those later. Like I said, you want to use enough meat when it comes to oxtail because the bone in the middle takes up a lot of that weight. Keep in mind that the meat around it is what we're gonna eat. We're not gonna eat the bone, right? So as well, we have the pressure cooker that I got just for this. It's a little bit small, but it's all right. I mean, it is a pressure cooker, which is what we need for this video. Here we are, just a quick little unboxing of it. See how it looks. Comes here with all the parts. It's just a Walmart brand or Farberware or Faberware. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. But here it comes with the lid. This little thing up top, I don't know what it's called, but that's what makes it release all of the pressure. As you should, since they just came out of the box, you want to give it a little wash just because you want to get rid of any like excess metals and stuff. Just quick little rinse with some soap. Just, you don't have to be super thorough, but just to be safe, you want to clean it as well as you can before you start cooking with it, right? Just wash it out with a little bit of water. Make sure you get all the soap out. We're gonna do the lid as well. I personally did not wash the lid very well. After I cooked with it and after I used it, I cleaned it up and it had some little metal strains and whatnot. But here we got the oxtail. It feels weird because usually every time I do like a ribeye or maybe a chuck roll or something like that, I do not wash it. You're supposed to just pat it dry, but with the oxtail, you kind of want to just to get some of that rawness out. Um, Oxtail is great, but a lot of the flavor, of course, comes from the stew itself. Um, but here we are just filling it up with some water. You want to clean it with either some lemon juice or some vinegar. I used apple cider vinegar. Um, Realize after that you're not wearing any gloves, but yeah, it's okay. I just wash my hands. I think I'm not sure. After you put on some gloves, what you're gonna do is you're gonna toss the oxtail all around the water. I still haven't put the vinegar in just yet. I wanna cut it all up, make this little slit around the oxtail just so that way the flavor can go deep inside, and it also helps it cook a little faster and makes some of it fall off the bone. So now after I put the apple cider vinegar, which is what I use, you could also use lemon juice if you would like. You see all this pink water, that's what you're trying to get rid of. So now you just got to make sure that the oxtail fits in the pot. You don't want to overcrowd the pot. And also you want to make sure is how much liquid you can put in there. So I ended up only using 2 packs of the oxtail instead of 3. So the ingredients we got are green and red peppers, tomatoes, onions, carrots, garlic, Worcestershire sauce, and apple cider vinegar. So we're gonna start by cutting the bell peppers. I usually cut the top part off a little bit and then I lay it flat and I cut all around it. That way there are no seeds all going around. There's no mess. There's not as much mess in my cutting board. After that, we're gonna julienne them and we're gonna cut them through the middle just so they're not as big. Because honestly, I'm not really much of a fan of peppers. I do use them to cook a lot just because they give a lot of flavor, but I personally don't. I mean, I use them to cook, but I don't serve them on my plate, if that makes any sense. We're gonna be doing the same thing with our red pepper. Just going around, like I said, to me, I feel like this is a lot more convenient. It's not making as much of a mess. The seeds aren't going all over the place. I feel like people trying to avoid the seeds, they end up making more of a mess. But hey, to each their own. I'm just teaching you what works for me. I worked in restaurants for a little bit, and you need to find your own version of how to do stuff the way that you feel are more convenient. But anyways, I'm gonna chop up the tomatoes, um, the onions, and the garlic. Now, what I ended up doing actually was not actually what I was gonna do. Um, I heard about this green seasoning that they do, and it's just gonna be like scallions, garlic, and the green peppers all blended up together, kind of like a paste type thing. But what I ended up doing was exactly that. I put them all in a blender with the tomatoes, the onions, all that stuff. With some apple cider vinegar and the Worcestershire sauce, since that is what we're gonna be using as well. So I forgot to record after I dumped them all in there. But anyways, here we are. We're mixing it all up, just massaging the oxtail a little bit, and then we're just gonna leave it here for a little bit to marinate. Um, just for a little bit, just so that way it could add some extra flavor. Okay, so this is what they call browning. Now you can buy browning at the store, but I've always believed that made at home or homemade versions are better. So we got a little bit of brown sugar with some oil, cook it up a little bit, see how this is making like a slurry in a type. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but once it's this consistency, you want to fry the oxtail on each side for about 2-3 minutes, making sure you mix it up and whatnot, just because you don't want the sugar to burn or the oxtail either. Also, you want to do it in batches. You do not want to just throw them all in there and toss and turn. No, you want to do it in batches. Make sure that each side is getting the browning. See, it's not even cooked and already looks amazing. I, I almost ended up eating an oxtail. But you want to make sure that you brown each side for a little bit. Basically, get a little caramelization. Because caramelization honestly brings out a lot of flavor. A lot, believe it or not. Now we're just going to remove these. This is the first batch. And then we're getting ready for the next one. Also, if you do realize, oxtail releases a lot of moisture. Like, it has a lot of water. Um, that, in a sense, is a good thing, but you want to try and fry it as much as you can. So, folks, the leftover marinade that I had in the blender, I'm just going to pour it in here, and this is where all the flavor comes from. We're just going to saute it, make sure some of the moisture gets out, because we want to fry that as well, just so we can get a little more caramelization, like I was saying. After it's reduced a little bit, then you can just go ahead and add back your oxtail. Once you add your oxtail, you're going to leave it there for a bit. You're actually going to top it off with some beef broth, or you can do water. I decided to opt for beef broth, just a little more depth of flavor. Um, but then it's going to cook for about 3 hours. Now, you usually serve this with rice. Here I got some basmati rice. Um, please wash your rice. A lot of people don't. It's frustrating. It's nasty. I've heard of people finding worms in their rice. I do not want to find any worms in my rice. So please wash your rice. It gets rid of the excess starch. And overall, in general, the rice just comes out a lot more fluffy. So the way I do it is I just pour some water, rinse it around with my hand, and then I put a colander on top of it and just strain it like I'm doing right now. We're gonna do this a couple of times up until the water starts running clear. The clearer, the better. But if you have just a little bit of starch or whiteness in the water, that's fine. Just try and get out as much as you can. Once you strain that, come over here to the stove with some water. I usually do a little bit of oil just because I want the bottom part to fry. We call that in Puerto Rico pegao. They call that in the Dominican Republic co no, actually, I don't know. I do know that in Ecuador they call it cocolon, if I remember correctly. So I season mine with garlic salt, some chicken tomato bouillon, and I use Goya, Sazon. Sorry, I'm Hispanic. I sometimes forget it. So we're making yellow rice, by the way. If you didn't know, just mix it around so that way all the seasonings can get all over. And once you do that, just put it on high for a while. Once it starts boiling, lower the temperature. I added a little bit more chicken bouillon because I tasted it. It was missing a little bit. So I decided to add some more, and also just because I wanted to be a little bit darker color. So we're basically going for orange rice instead of yellow. Ooh. So like I said, once it starts boiling, give it a little mix just once again so that way the rice doesn't stick to each other. And then just leave it there. Give it a little taste again just to try it now that it's hot. Yeah, I can make rice. That's good. So once most of the water is gone, put the heat down to low. I want to say number 3 or 4. And let it cook for another 10-15 minutes. We're going to check on our oxtail. Here we are just releasing the pressure. And this is how it's looking. Doesn't look too bad. Just got to give it a little try. Just waiting for it to cook a little more because I know, of course, it's missing. It's still not fall off the bone oxtail yet. But we're working on that. Just give it a little taste. It's hot, but it's good. Now I just realized I have a double chin just so y'all can take a look. And still, while we wait, we have a little drink because we still gotta wait, and I'm hungry. So this is how the rice is looking. I've made rice before. Rice is one of my go-to sides. I love it. It's comforting. It brings me back memories from when my mother used to make it. This rice is good, but I still want to try it. And as per petition of my girlfriend, she wants some corn, just showing y'all. After the oxtail is all tender for a bit, it's still missing a little time. I'm gonna add the peppers, onions. This I just added just so it can give a little color to the dish. I'm also gonna add some potatoes just because it is a stew after all, and I think potatoes go really, really, really well with a stew. After you add those, just give it a little mix. Right now, it is not boiling just because I took it off the heat because, of course, can't use heat when we're using a pressure cooker. If you want to open it up, I'm going to taste the rice, see how it's doing. Try not to lose as much as I did. I almost cry every time I lose a little bit of rice, even if it's a grain. Yep, that is good. Ha, thumbs up. So now we added the butter beans towards the end. These are canned, so these are already cooked. There's no need to cook them any further. And this is how it's looking. Now we just gotta take one piece just to see how it's doing. Take a spoon and try it again now that you added the butter beans. But first, let's take a look at this oxtail, see how it's doing. It's really hot. I was trying to hold it with my hand as much as I can, but I couldn't. So I'm just gonna like cool down a little bit. After a bit, we're gonna give it a try. My apologies for the faces I'm making. It's still a little bit hot. It's good, but it is hot, hot. I love oxtail, that sense of just licking your fingers. That's amazing. So now we're just gonna go ahead and plate it up. I got rice on each side just to make it look a little fancier. And we're gonna put the oxtail in the middle. You're gonna get 3 gigantic, humongous pieces. And then here we have the finished product. See y'all next time, guys.